Here we have a 2001 E220 CDI W210 body. So this is the E Class Mercedes. This is the E220 CDI. CDI means that it's diesel. So all around this car, you can see it's still in pretty good shape. You can kind of notice that the tires look a little bit old. This is the R plate, so this was probably imported into the Philippines. And you'll also notice that this is the facelift model. So, okay, one way to tell if it's a facelift or not for W220. The non-facelift, you got a rectangular panel here. So it's not one piece. You have this one piece, then the bumper is a separate piece. But for this one, it's just one piece like that. This is pretty rare, the diesel version of the W220 in the Philippines. So to enter the E-Class, you have a keyless entry. They use this in the newer facelift models. You don't have the metal key anymore. Go in. So here, the first thing you'll notice here is that the steering wheel is a mismatched color. So I'm pretty sure that that was replaced, because most of the time, I'm not sure, I think it could be an option. The steering wheel would usually match the color of the interior. And since everything is just gray and this is black, let's try something off. Also, you'll notice that since this is a facelift model, the center badge is already in chrome. The older ones don't have it. It's just a recessed piece with the Mercedes logo there. Stepping on inside, another thing for the facelift model, you have a bigger information screen right there. Just the older ones are like a rectangular with the bulge on top, like that. Okay, let's go and start her up. It's over here. Just like that, but no metal there. Okay, so let's first check the thud of the door, if it's a good sound. That's pretty good. That's a solid Mercedes sound. Turn on the AC. There's no climate control. It's just a basic one. Usually the lower diesel models, they're like that. Power locks over here. And this button right here drops down the headrest at the back. So if they're up like that, if you want additional visibility, just hold this button and it folds down. The center one too, but I haven't had it raised up. This car doesn't have sunroof. Here in the center, your power mirrors, power windows rather, they are all automatic up and down. This is your side mirror switch. So the thing with the side mirror switch is if you have it set on the right side versus the left, and you put the car in reverse, that one tilts down so you can see the curb better. Then one more thing here in the middle is that you got a it's like a winter and standard mode. It's not sport, it's just standard mode. The thing here with the standard mode, it shifts a bit faster, and in winter time it tries to shift a bit slower, that way you don't get that much wheel spin. Also over here at the center you have a center cubby. And what's interesting about the center cubby, even if this is an old car, you can actually have it cooled. Of course, it's not going to keep your ice from melting, but it's going to help it a little bit. Over here, you also have this cubby right here. There's a removable container here. Here in the middle, you also have two more. You got your 12-volt outlet right there. Another one here, circulate button. Yeah, just basic stuff. Oh, one more thing. This one. The rear sunshade, I'm not sure if they work. I don't want to risk it because sometimes it gets stuck, but I know you have it there. Okay, regular, no automatic dimming rear view mirrors. Light switches over here. You can also adjust your high beam over here. This car has 94,657 kilometers. But as you can see, this two dials, the two gauges on the side, the pixels are pretty bad. Okay, over on the side, let me open the door so you can see it better. There you go. So you got your power seats with 3-way memory. It's pretty nice. On the other side too, you got power seats. So you know, overall, this car, even if it's a diesel, you just close the door. You barely hear the diesel sound. I mean, it's a bit more noisier than the gasoline version, which I've had one too in the past, but still not bad. Right now we're idling at just below 1,000 RPM, and it's pretty quiet. Let's give it a rev. Okay, that is a very diesel sound, but it's not a bad diesel sound. Okay, so let's turn off the car and check the back. So I need to switch off the lights. Okay, so the E220 at the back. That is pretty spacious, especially for a mid-sized car of this era. You know how cars have just been getting bigger and bigger over time. But this was from the 90s until the 2000s, early 2000s. And that room is pretty good. So that's my driving position. I'm only around 5'6", so I'm pretty short. But that is big, okay? If you've seen my previous video on the W140, you're gonna note that with the same driving position and everything, this is probably like 1.5 times less. Or rather, that is 1.5 times more. So I got map pockets over here. As with most Mercedes Benz of this era, you got a center armrest. You pull this cup holders, you yank it even more. You got a first aid kit, which again, I don't really recommend using. This is made in what, 2008? Yeah, so it's actually newer than this car, so this is trying to replace too. Air vents in the center. Their dome light over there. Window switches over here. Basic thing. Oh, ashtray. Relics of the past. As for the back of the E220 CDI, it's pretty much the same as with most W220s. Oh, one thing to note, that most W120s have this crack somewhere in the middle or over here. Mine had it here before, but this one doesn't have it. So you just press this button to open the trunk. Goes up like that. Some W220s from some countries sold in some countries would have a warning triangle right there, but apparently the country where this came from didn't have it. You got ample amount of space, but you can't fold down the rear seats. That wasn't even an option as far as I know. That wasn't a thing back then. Usually you have a CD changer over here too as an option. Here you don't have it. It's pretty basic. This is the classic model, by the way, not the avant-garde or elegance. So pulling this up, got a full-size spare tire, and this spare tire looks new. That's quite rare for people to change out on these older cars. You got your original jack, W220 part number jack as well. And when you close this trunk, also gives you a nice solid sound. Okay, now we move on to the tires. So the tires for this W220, they come in a 215 5516. But these are quite old actually. These were made at DOT date on this one rather. It's somewhere here. It's 2013. So now it's 2020 and it's about 7 years old. It's probably time to replace them pretty soon. One thing you'd also see with the W220 and the previous E Class generation, the W124, you got this Monoblade Wiper. So over here it's a bit longer. When it goes up, it shortens by itself, it telescopes, and then gets longer again. It's a pretty cool thing, but the motor in this one breaks quite often. So opening up the engine bay of the W220, you just have to pull a latch right here. It's called a red latch. And in a left-hand drive car, there's nothing wrong with this because it's on the right side, it's on the driver's side. I mean, the right side of the car. But with left-hand drive vehicles, oddly, they still have it there. So if you're a driver and you want to open up the engine bay, you have to go all over to their version of the passenger side and still pull the latch here. Foot operated parking brake there, by the way. I don't want that to lock on me. So opening up the hood of these older Mercedes, you just lift this up a little bit, then you can pull this tab. But I don't recommend that you pull it and raise up because you might break that. That thing breaks a lot. It's a thin piece of plastic, so you gotta use 2 hands. So over here you have it OM611. This is a, I'm not sure if it's a 2.2 or 2.2 liter diesel engine, but I've heard reports that this motor is rather reliable. I haven't heard that much horror stories on these. But of course, it can't compare to the older Mercedes diesels such as the OM617 or the OM603. Those are just legendary bulletproof engines. You'll see them in the 300 SDL, the 126. Also see them on the 240D, the legendary 123 body. This one is really clean. There's really no signs of visible wear that you can see. There's no oil leaks. gave this a once around a while ago and it's really clean. The number right here, 210-00612. This comes with these look like Bosch Europa horns, aftermarket horns. Pretty nice, this car. The Bugeye. Of course, your Mercedes Benz hood star just leads the way as you drive on. It gives sense to people that you're arriving and not simply, pulling up to somewhere. The thing with most Mercedes Benz is if this angle is not enough for you as a mechanic, it's just around what 40-50 degrees probably. There's actually a button over there at the side. You see that orange button right there? You can press that up and this one just lifts all the way up to 90 degrees. So driving the E220 CDI 2001 W210 body. As you set off, the first thing I noticed is the throttle feels a bit more punchier than my E240 before. And the steering, I'm not sure if this is exactly how my 220 felt before, but it feels lighter. Or maybe I just gotten used to my E90 recently. So yeah, it's very punchy. I think that's with the torque. The torque of the diesel. You know how diesels have way more torque than gasoline, but they have less horsepower. So I'm just gonna try to accelerate it. Oh, in that corner, that felt pretty good. I've been driving an E90 for the past month or two, even 3 months actually, and I didn't expect to get that much road feel from this car. Going over that speed bump just now, you don't feel it that much. Again, I have to go back to my W140 comparison, and it's still not as smooth as a W140. But for a car at this price point, at least back then when it was brand new compared to the W140, this actually drives pretty well. So I'm just going to turn over here and try to give the handling another test. I'm just going to accelerate on that corner. And the torque on that diesel is quite impressive. I actually like that torque. Given the Manila roads where you have to stop a lot because of traffic, I must say that torque really gives you a sense of speed, way more than the gasoline versions. I mean, sure, you probably reach a higher top speed with the gasoline versions, but from the get-go, if you want to go fast instantly, if you want to accelerate fast, you at least have this feeling, the torque pulling power feeling of a diesel engine. Another big bump right there, and it takes it up really well. You feel the car move, that's for sure, but it's not jarring at all. It's a good job. So there, you got a diesel sound, but it's not an annoying diesel sound. Given it's not as refined as even more modern diesel cars. I mean, I'd still consider this a rather modern Mercedes. For a 2001 car, for how much you can get this, which right now I've been seeing some advertisements that go for around 400, 350K. This car is actually pretty fun to drive. So right now I'm just going to keep the car in standard mode. I won't put it in winter mode. And actually one thing I forgot to mention earlier is before in the older cars you can like move this all the way to like 2, so you gotta manually shift it down, but with this one you can just move left and right and the gears will change. It's like a Tiptronic system. So yeah, let's just go back to regular drive. Okay, so again, you hear that diesel sound. It's not an annoying diesel sound. You got pretty good torque. I'm flooring it, and wow, the torque, you actually feel the torque. It's not blazingly fast. Of course, it's no Lamborghini, it's no Ferrari, it's no E55 AMG either, the legendary E55 W220, but it's pretty good. I mean, I'm very much satisfied, especially with Manila roads, all the traffic we have. This is a good car for you to daily drive. On the horn, yeah, Bosch Europa always sounds good, classic. And of course, as you drive along, you have that magnificent hood star up front, which is something that I really regret. Like, I don't know why Mercedes would stop putting them. They say it's gonna make you look like an old man. I beg to differ. It really gives you a sense of elegance that you don't get with a BMW or 4 Rings, even with a Jaguar. Here, let's just accelerate it more for it, and that picks up fast. That torque is pretty good. That's something I don't get even with the E240. You just have that instantaneous torque right there. These diesel engines are pretty nice. No wonder they cost more in the used market than the gasoline versions. In addition to its rarity, of course, in the Philippines. And again, overall, if you want a good 220 you can drive every day, if you're concerned about fuel consumption, then I suggest you look at one of these. That is, if you don't mind it being usually a B plate or an R plate. Remember, there's nothing wrong with those cars. It's just we really stigmatize it over time here. And I honestly don't understand the reason why. It's a great car. I don't think the plate number would make a difference as long as you don't care about what some people think.